I never thought I'd find myself talking to a plant. But then again, I never thought I'd feel this kind of peace just by watering a fern and whispering good morning to it. My name's Walter. I'm 72, retired from the Postal Service. And these days, my best conversations aren't with people. They're with the green little friends that sit by my window. It may sound strange, but if you're over 65, you might understand this better than most. There's something about the silence of a plant, the way it just listens, never interrupts, never judges. And you'd be surprised, science actually backs this up. Talking to plants can calm your nerves, lower your blood pressure, even help with memory and loneliness. In today's reflection, I want to share with you a secret joy many seniors like me have quietly discovered. A joy that lives in pots and planters, in quiet rooms and backyard gardens. This is a story about life, about healing, and about how something as simple as speaking to a plant can speak right back to your heart. If this kind of gentle reflection speaks to you, go ahead and subscribe, turn on the bell icon, and stay with me through this journey. Trust me, by the end of it, you might just find yourself whispering to your aloe vera too. Let me walk you through something I've come to believe deeply. It's many. Each one rooted in experience, in science, and in the quiet truths I've heard from seniors across Europe and the US. Let me share a few of them with you. First, talking to plants brings structure to a day that often feels empty. You see, after retirement, after the kids move on and the daily rush ends, many seniors find themselves waking up without a clear reason to get out of bed. That's when the mind can spiral into sadness, into forgetfulness. But caring for a plant, watering it, checking its leaves, whispering a hello each morning, it gives rhythm to the hours, like setting an anchor in still water. I remember old Thomas from Manchester. He's 78 now, used to be a railway engineer. After his wife passed, he told me, "Mornings were the worst. I didn't know what to do with myself. But then I got this little rosemary bush. I named her Maggie. Every day I'd get up, water her, clip her, tell her about my dreams last night. Gave me a reason to start the day." That's what routine does. It roots you, just like the plants you talk to. Yes, memory and focus. There's actual research from the University of Illinois showing that seniors who interact regularly with plants have better short-term memory and sharper attention spans. It's like giving your brain a gentle daily workout. Not loud or flashy, just consistent. Take Maria from Lisbon. She's 81 and was starting to struggle with names and dates. Her grandson gave her 3 succulents, said they were low maintenance. But Maria, she gave them personalities. "This one's called Francisco. He's the grumpy one," she laughed. Every day she'd talk to them like family. Within 6 months, she told her doctor she was remembering her shopping list again. "These little guys," she said, "they pull me back into the present." Third, it helps process grief, a quiet form of emotional release. After a loss of a spouse, sibling, a dear friend, people tell you to talk to someone, but what if no one's around? What if the pain is too private? That's where a plant becomes something sacred. You can say things to a plant you'd never say to a person. It doesn't interrupt, doesn't judge, it just listens. There's a man I met in North Carolina, Edwin, 76. His daughter had passed suddenly. He barely spoke to anyone for months, but he had this little bonsai tree he used to tend with her. He told me one evening, "Sometimes I sit beside it and I say, 'Are you proud of me, sweetheart?' I'm trying." That little tree became his place of confession, of remembering, of slowly, quietly healing. Fourth, it combats loneliness by creating a sense of companionship. Now, I know how that sounds. Can a plant really keep you company? You'd be surprised. The act of speaking out loud, of hearing your own voice in a quiet room, gives comfort. It creates the illusion, and sometimes even the reality, of connection. It reminds you that you're still capable of care. Margot, a widow from Marseille, told me something that made me pause. She said, "My lavender plant doesn't answer back, but she reminds me I still have love to give. Every night she says goodnight to it. Every morning she checks on it like it's a child. And she swears since she started doing that, the ache of silence doesn't hit her quite as hard. It slows the heart, calms the nerves, literally lowers stress." There's a study from South Korea where elderly patients in nursing homes showed significantly reduced cortisol levels, the stress hormone, after just 2 weeks of speaking softly to indoor plants. Their heart rate slowed, their anxiety levels dropped. Imagine that. No pills, no side effects, just kindness in the form of a few words to a green friend. And Mr. Charles from Vermont, 84, former math teacher, had struggled with anxiety after retirement. He once told me, "I used to feel like the world was spinning without me. Now when I talk to my spider plant, I feel still again. I tell it everything I can't tell people, and somehow it soothes me." That's the quiet power of plants. They remind your body to rest. And sixth, it gives you a sense of purpose, something to nurture. We all need something to care for. When your days stretch long and the phone doesn't ring as much, a plant gives you a task, a responsibility, something alive that depends on you. And that feeling that you still matter to something, that can be life-saving. In Berlin, I met an ex-pilot named Hans. His family was spread across 3 countries. He lived alone in a small apartment. When I asked him what made him happiest, he pointed to his indoor garden and said, "They need me every day, and that's enough." That stuck with me, because sometimes we don't need grand adventures or applause. We just need to feel needed. Now, I know some folks still think talking to plants is just old age nonsense, but let me tell you, if they saw what I've seen, they'd understand this isn't about flowers. It's about life and the ways we try to hold on to it. In this part, I want to share a few more reasons why speaking to plants, especially after 65, might be one of the most meaningful things we can do, not just for the plants, but for ourselves. Let's start with something simple. Talking to plants reconnects you with nature. Even when you're stuck indoors, many seniors in Europe and the US live in apartments, nursing homes, or weather-heavy regions where going outside isn't always easy. But bring a bit of green inside, and suddenly the world opens up again. Just one houseplant can remind you of the seasons, of life moving even when you can't. You feel the soil, you smell the leaves, you see the light change, and it's like your body remembers the rhythm of nature. There's this woman named Jeanette in Sweden. She's 86 and wheelchair-bound, but her room is like a miniature forest. Ivy, orchids, herbs, everywhere. I asked her why she keeps so many. She smiled and said, "I can't go to the forest anymore, so I brought the forest to me. And every morning I greet it like old friends." She told me she speaks to each one as she waters them, asking, "How did you sleep? Are you thirsty today?" And in doing that, she said she doesn't feel stuck indoors anymore. "I feel like I'm still part of the earth." Another thing, it brings back memories, strong, colorful memories. You'd be surprised how many stories a plant can pull out of someone. A scent, a leaf, the feel of bark, and suddenly they're back in their grandmother's garden or walking through a vineyard in Italy. That kind of sensory memory is powerful, especially for seniors who are struggling with memory loss or early dementia. It sparks the mind in ways words alone can't. I'll never forget Mr. Salvatore from New Jersey, Italian-American, 79 years old, had early-stage Alzheimer's, but every time he smelled fresh basil, he lit up. His daughter started growing basil in a pot on the kitchen windowsill. He talks to it like it's his nonna. She laughed. He'll say, "Remember that sauce we made in Naples? You were there, weren't you?" It might seem silly, but those conversations gave him back a piece of his past. They made him feel whole again, even if just for a moment. Now here's something many people don't think about. Talking to plants encourages better self-talk. You see, when you speak to a plant, you're gentle. You encourage it. You say, "Look at you growing," or "Hang in there, you'll bloom soon." And whether you realize it or not, you're actually practicing kindness. And that kindness starts to echo back inside you. Slowly, you speak to yourself in the same way, softer, more patient. I learned this from a veteran named Roy out in Denver. He's 71 and lives alone. Tough guy. Few words, but he told me this one night. I was watering my cactus and I said, "You're doing good, little guy. Tough place to grow, but you're holding on." And then I laughed because it felt like I was talking to myself. Roy had lived through some hard years, but he said that moment made him realize he could give himself a break. Maybe he was doing okay too. That's the strange magic of plant talk. It changes how we speak to ourselves. Talking to plants can also make people feel less invisible. As we age, we get overlooked. People talk over us, or worse, around us. But plants notice every word, every whisper. They don't look away. They don't check their watch. When a senior talks to a plant, they're reminded that their voice still matters, that what they say, even softly, still carries weight in the world. A man named Lester in Dublin once told me, "I can go a week without anyone saying my name, but every day I say it to my peace lily." "Morning, Lester," I tell myself, like I'm reintroducing my voice to the world. And that right there, that's not about botany, that's about dignity. And don't underestimate how talking to plants helps build patience. Plants grow slow, days, weeks, months before you see a flower, and that teaches you to wait, to watch, to appreciate the little changes. In a world where everything is rush, especially for younger people, seniors have this gift. They already know how to slow down. And plants, they match that pace perfectly. There's this lady in Ohio, Ethel, who grows African violets. She's 82, lost most of her sight, but she still feels the leaves, still talks to them. They teach me patience, she said. Not everything needs to bloom fast to be beautiful. Some things take time, and that's okay. What a lesson right there. Spoken like true elderly wisdom. Lastly, it inspires creativity, something most people forget. Talking to plants can lead to naming them, decorating their pots, writing them poems, even painting them. That little interaction can unlock a part of the mind that says, I still have stories to tell. I still have something to make. Mr. Grant in Toronto used to be a carpenter. After his stroke, he couldn't work with wood anymore, but he started planting succulents and then writing short letters to each one. Dear Spike, one of them said, you remind me of my old workshop, tough on the outside but full of life inside. His granddaughter turned those letters into a little book. They read it together every Sunday. The plants gave him something to say again, and a new way to say it. So now you might be wondering, how do I start? How do I bring this quiet joy into my own life? The truth is, it's simpler than you think. You don't need a garden. You don't need to be a plant person. All you need is one small living thing and the willingness to be present with it. I tell people, start with one plant. Something easy, a peace lily, a pothos, maybe even a tomato vine if you're feeling adventurous. Set it near your window. Water it, sit with it, talk to it. Tell it what the weather's like, what your knees feel like this morning. Tell it about your dreams from last night. Or just say, hello, you look good today. That's more than enough. You're not doing it to be clever. You're doing it to stay connected to yourself, to the world, to something living. And little by little, you'll feel it. The stillness, the comfort, the shift. Let me tell you what I've seen in others who've embraced this. There's a small senior community in Oregon where every resident has a plant companion. They call it that, a companion. Some folks give them names, others decorate their pots like art. And once a week they gather and talk about what their plants are feeling. It's funny but beautiful too, because through those plants they're really talking about themselves. Mrs. Evelyn, who's 88, once said, during one of those sessions, my fern looked droopy yesterday, and I realized, so did I. So I gave her extra water, and I made myself a nice lunch. We both perked up. That's the kind of awareness this brings. When you learn to care again, even for something small, you start to care for yourself. More gently, too. I've come to believe this is what healing looks like in our later years. It's not loud, it's not complicated, it's not always about fixing. Sometimes it's just about noticing, about paying attention to what's still alive around you and in you. There's also a deep humility in it. Talking to plants reminds you that you're not the only one changing with time. Everything ages, everything bends toward the light in its own way. A plant with yellowing leaves isn't dying, it's adapting, and so are we. That's what I learned from Rosa, a 90-year-old from Barcelona. She keeps a single olive tree on her balcony. I prune it when it hurts, she told me, but I never cut too much, just enough so it can breathe. And then she looked at me and said, isn't that what we all need? Just a little space to breathe? I nodded, because she was right. That little olive tree was her mirror. So if you're listening to this and wondering whether this practice is really for you, let me say it clearly. It is, especially if you've ever felt forgotten. If you've ever felt useless or invisible or unsure of your place in the world after retirement, this is for you. Because a plant doesn't care if you're old, or slow, or a little forgetful. It responds to your presence, not your performance. And in a world that so often moves too fast, that is a gift beyond measure. And maybe one day, like me, you'll find that the plant isn't the only one growing, you are too. So maybe this sounds simple, maybe even a little odd, but sometimes the most powerful things in life are the quietest ones. A plant doesn't speak, it doesn't move, but when you take a moment to talk to it, you realize something. You're not just keeping it alive, it's keeping you present, rooted, needed. After 65, people often think life starts closing down. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's the season to open up, to gentleness, to reflection, to small joys that younger eyes overlook? That's what talking to plants has taught me, that we still have things to say, still have love to give, and still so much life to grow into. If this story touched something in you, I hope you'll share it with someone you love. Maybe send them a plant, or better yet, talk to one together. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next quiet reflection we share together. And before you go, I've got one question for you. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know where in the world this little story found you.